Welcome everyone, my name is Samantha Oakley from ALA's Public Programs Office. I'm pleased to introduce today's webinar, Lawyers and Librarians, Breaking Barriers to Employment. Before I hand things off to our presenters for today, I'd like to make a few quick announcements. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with support from ALA's Cultural Communities Fund. To learn more about the Cultural Communities Fund or make a contribution, visit ala.org/ccf. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with Programming Librarian, a website of ALA's Public Programs Office. We have a lot of program ideas and an online learning library full of free webinars just like this one. Finally, a couple of notes about our virtual classroom. Only our presenters have microphone access, but you are welcome to type your questions or comments in the chat box. We will have time for a Q&A at the end. Also, if you have any technical issues, please send a private message to Brian Russell. To do so, hover over Brian's name in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and click Start Private Chat. Now I'd like to introduce our presenters, Eric Riley and Maya Shepard. Eric is the Coordinator of Adult Programs and Partnerships at DC Public Library. In his role, Eric has overseen hundreds of citywide programs for adults ages 20 and older. In 2010, he was named a Library Journal Mover and Shaker for innovative programming. Eric has been a coordinator for the Barriers to Employment project since the beginning of the program in 2014. Presenting with Eric is Maya Shepard. Maya is the managing attorney for the Barriers to Employment project at Neighborhood Legal Services program. In this role, she represents clients who are facing legal barriers to employment such as criminal records, problems with background checks, and discrimination. With that, I'll turn things over to Maya and Eric.
Thank you, Samantha. This is Eric Riley from the DC Public Library, and let's get started with this. What we're going to cover today is going to cover a lot of ground, and we don't have a lot of time to do it, so you're going to get a deep overview of things, and we'll have opportunities at the end to talk about your questions regarding the program. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Job Seekers program at DCPL, and how our Job Seekers Clinic works here. And then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Maya from Neighborhood Legal Services Program. We abbreviate that as NLSP, so if I say that, that's what I'm referring to. And she's going to tell you about how the legal clinic works as part of the Job Seekers Program. And then at the very end, we'll do an open Q&A with you all. So, why did DCPL develop a job seekers program? Over the years of 2008 to 2010, the District of Columbia had seen skyrocketing and sustained high unemployment. Every government agency at that time was pitching in to find ways to help reduce unemployment. As public librarians, we were already regularly working with long-term unemployed people, and we saw that their needs were outstripping our core service model. Job seekers needed to have extended time on public computers, and many of them needed a lot more personalized attention and assistance than we could typically offer in a standard reference interaction. Just to give you kind of a sense of the crisis that we were seeing, these were the district's unemployment numbers from different wards of the city in 2010. You can see that over half of our neighborhoods had high double-digit levels of unemployment. This was clearly a crisis, and we had to do something about it. Over the course of 2010, we developed a SMART goal for our adult services staff to expressly address the needs of job seekers through hosting job seekers clinics that run for 4 hours, providing one-on-one counseling and assistance, conducting regular outreach to workforce development sites, and other services as needed. We provided additional staff training in our print and electronic resources for job seekers. And for those sites that were hosting our 4-hour clinics, we procured new laptops to provide extended use time through the use of an LSTA grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. We also developed an assessment tool to quickly identify the job seeker's skill level, what goals they were trying to accomplish in the clinic, and where we could refer them for additional support, such as computer training classes or adult literacy programs. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk about how we operate our job seekers clinics, because this model has remained fairly consistent throughout the program's inception and run since its beginning. First of all, we have to identify staff. We do this through a combination of existing DCPL librarians and associates who work with adults and who have been trained in the job seekers model, as well as recruiting skilled volunteers to assist in the clinic. This slide shows some of the skill sets that we look for in both staff and volunteers in the job seekers clinic. Each time we set up for the clinic, we lay out the same resources. And below the slideshow here, to the left of the chat window, many of these printed resources are available for you to download. We set up a temporary computer lab with our laptop carts in the largest meeting room in that facility. We place a sign-in sheet by the door so that we can take people in the order in which they're received. And each laptop station will have a paper package that includes our pre-consultation card, a spreadsheet for the job seeker to record their usernames and passwords to different job boards and application sites, a filtered list of top websites to look through, and a customer evaluation card to capture any feedback. We also keep a bag of flash drives handy for people to save their documents to. Around about 15 minutes into the clinic, as people have settled in and they filled out their pre-consultation cards, our staff and volunteers will begin going down the sign-in sheet to meet with people. Following their responses, we may start with creating an email account or jumping into resume templates. Every individual case is different, but we try to spend enough time with each individual person on the roster so that they can get the one-on-one assistance that they need to get them in through the job seeking process. Now, obviously, some people are further along in their job search. So for those people, we may jump directly into the search process and show them how to navigate through sites like aggregators and job boards. Other people have questions or issues filling out very long online applications. This is where the clinic's extended time frame becomes invaluable. Our public computers only offer a 70-minute timed session. Being able to provide 4 hours of uninterrupted computer access means that that individual customer can accomplish a lot more. Lastly, before the customer leaves, we ask them to complete the customer evaluation card and to drop that in our fishbowl. This is completely anonymous, but it gives us a great sense of how well the clinic is doing and how we can improve it gradually over time. For the sake of expediency, we typically copy these pre-consultation forms and evaluation forms back to back on a single quarter sheet of an 8.5 by 11 standard page. Again, all of the documents that I just talked about are linked below in the resources. Now, this is what we came to talk about today. Let's talk about lawyers. Around 2013, we began a broad partnership with the Neighborhood Legal Services Program in DC. The purpose of this was to offer public information sessions about general legal topics of interest and need to people in our communities. These covered everything from housing law to domestic violence to paternity rights to how new laws will impact district residents. In 2014, Neighborhood Legal Services Program proposed to offer targeted legal support in our job seekers clinics. To do this, they secured a grant, and since 2015, we've been working in close collaboration on a program that we call Breaking Barriers to Employment. This was a great fit for us because we as librarians know where our strengths and weaknesses were in supporting this population. Librarians regularly support people who have low literacy skills, low digital literacy, people in the education gap, and those who are, for the first time, confronting a 21st century employment landscape. Lawyers, on the other hand, have a skill set that can address many different and concrete areas that prevent people from finding work, things like sealing criminal records, addressing hiring discrimination, and how life issues can impact the job search, education, and job retention. But the main reason that we did this was because we recognized that by eliminating legal barriers to employment, you can free someone up to truly focus on their personal development so that they can be ready to work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maya from NLSP to talk about the legal clinic and how that works.
So first off, what is Neighborhood Legal Services Program? NLSP is a nonprofit law firm that provides free legal information, advice, and representation to low-income District of Columbia residents. We provide services in family law, consumer law, barriers to employment, which we'll talk more about, wills, public benefits, including a program focused on veterans benefits, and housing law. NLSP's partnership with DCPL contains two major pieces. The first piece is the legal clinics for job seekers that coincide with the job seeker drop-in clinic that Eric just described. And the second are these free legal information workshops where library patrons can come to learn about a range of legal topics, including new laws or changes in the law that might impact their lives. These programs bring lawyers directly into the libraries in order to make legal services and information accessible to patrons, including the job seekers who are already at the library using the free computers and resources. And the legal clinic component takes place literally the same time as the job seeker clinics. Eric mentioned some of the legal barriers to employment that job seekers face. This is a list of some of the issues that we work on within our barriers to employment practice here at NLSP. Often it's very difficult to identify that a problem you have when you're on the job search is actually a legal problem that can be resolved with the help of a lawyer. So locating these legal clinics where job seekers are already working to find work allows us to help people identify legal issues that might be contributing to unemployment. Barriers to employment issues often overlap. For example, maybe a patron is frustrated because employers keep asking for background checks during employment applications, and they are not sure what their rights are about sharing information about criminal history, credit reports, or other things. Maybe they're worried about what an employer can see on a credit report because they have student loans that went into default. Each one of these issues on this list can potentially be resolved with the help of a lawyer so that the job seeker can get back to their search. So how does the job seeker drop-in legal clinic actually function? At the clinics, lawyers set up shop in a private location near the job seeker clinic. The setup of a clinic like this depends on the space that you have to work with at your library. In some branches, we set the clinic up in a study room. In others, we set it up in the back of a bigger meeting room where conversations with lawyers are out of earshot of the rest of the patrons. But regardless of the setup, the important aspect is that patrons can come directly to the legal clinic from the job seeker clinic, and that the space allows for privacy and confidentiality. Lawyers can then provide information and referrals to appropriate legal services on the spot so that patrons can leave the clinic with concrete next steps for addressing a legal barrier. In this way, the clinics become a direct point of entry into legal services. And while in DC there are many legal service providers, it's often difficult to know where to begin, and it's often hard to actually get to a law office because of difficulties with affording transportation that's when a law office is across the city, or just the difficulty of navigating all of the services. One example of a legal clinic patron is someone who came to the clinic because they were turned down from a job due to a criminal record. At the one-on-one meeting during the library legal clinic, the lawyer identified that the patron was eligible to seal their criminal record so it was no longer visible to employers. The patron then became an NLSP client, and the lawyer helped them seal their criminal records so that they could go forth in the job search with confidence, and so that this old record for which they long ago served their sentence would no longer be holding them back. The other piece of our programming I mentioned involves legal information workshops. In these workshops, library branches become ad hoc classrooms where people can learn for free about legal issues that impact their lives. The workshops often focus on giving patrons access to new laws that have not yet been widely publicized but have a big impact on the job search process. The workshops are interactive and emphasize patron participation rather than being an opportunity for lawyers to lecture. And they provide another point of entry for patrons into legal services because attorneys can speak one-on-one with interested patrons following the workshop to refer them to an appropriate legal service. This picture here is of a packed room at a workshop about disability rights. So the question then becomes, are library patrons reaching legal service providers following these clinics and workshops? And a major goal for our clinics is to provide follow-up to the information and referrals we give patrons and to continue to either help them navigate legal services or help them become clients of NLSP. For the next 2 years, we'll be working with a consultant to more effectively evaluate the long-term impact of these clinics and workshops, and we'll work with other comparable programs around the country to share information and to learn from each other. The data that we've collected so far on the project reflects the power of the collaboration with libraries, given the amount of people we were able to reach. Over the past 2 years, we've conducted hundreds of one-on-one consultations with job seekers and have served as a portal into the legal aid community in DC for over 200 patrons. We've also had the opportunity to do more extensive representation for patrons of the clinics, and this past year alone, we're able to take on 16 cases that came out of these clinics to help job seekers remove barriers to employment. And these are clients we likely would not have met without the partnership with the libraries. The funding for the project also reflects the collaboration between our organizations. We received local funding during the first year of the project through one city fund. And when that funding decreased in the second year, a Library Services and Technology Act grant was able to fill in the remaining funding. And this year, we're happy to announce that we received a new grant from Legal Services Corporation, and this has enabled us to hire additional staff as well as an outcomes consultant to help us actually measure the impact of the project and make it even more effective. We'll be integrating volunteer lawyers from throughout DC to expand our capacity to reach job seekers with these clinics. And as Eric mentioned, the project now has monthly presence at 3 different libraries, and the library has dedicated new staff to hold job seeker clinics in 2 libraries in wards 7 and 8. So if you're interested in trying to start your own lawyer-library partnership, you can reach out to lawyers in your own city or county to develop one. You can start with a few very simple steps. You can call your local legal aid provider or your local bar association, and there's a very useful website called lawhelp.org that contains information about legal service providers in each state. You can contact a provider and ask for a meeting to discuss whether you might be able to develop some joint programming. And at a meeting like that, you can share information about what legal problems you have identified among library patrons and ask about what services the lawyers provide. There are more and more examples of these partnerships cropping up around the country, some initiated by librarians and some initiated by legal services. I've listed just a few of the programs on this slide, and I've noticed that some people who participate in these programs are actually on this webinar. We hope that you can find ways to work with lawyers to serve your neighborhoods and communities, and that when you do, you reach out to us so that you can join this growing national conversation about lawyer legal partnerships. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric and Maya. So we have about 10 minutes now for a Q&A, and if you would like to have any questions for Eric or Maya, go ahead and type them in the chat box now. And I'll give everyone a few minutes to type there. Okay, Cynthia Hunt would like to know if if patrons are allowed to attend one or more than one of the clinics.
Well, in terms of the job seekers clinic and the legal clinic, we do see a lot of repeat customers. The Martin Luther King Library that hosts the main job seekers clinic, we see many of the same people, long-term unemployed people, come back time and again. Do you see repeat customers?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so definitely in the legal clinics as well.
Great. Beth Taylor would like to know if your criminal record is expunged, what does the client say if asked if they have a record?
So this is actually an annoyingly complicated answer, but expungement and record sealing laws are different in every jurisdiction that has them. So, for example, in DC, we have a criminal record sealing law that it depends on what type of sealing it is. It's different levels of sealed. But in most places where there's an expungement law, expungement means that it's completely gone. So normally that means that when somebody's asked, they can say without penalty of perjury that they do not have a criminal history. So sometimes it's complicated, so I can't say for sure because it depends on the jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. So N. Malone would like to know what some of the typical challenges are to starting a program like this.
In terms of the job seekers program, there was a bit of a training ramp up for the staff in order to get people acclimated to understanding the job seeking process better. And at that time, we worked with the Department of Employment Services to understand some of their actions, and we worked with the DC Office of Human Resources to learn more about resume building and writing. In terms of starting the legal clinic, Maya was not here when we started the legal clinic. She's our second lawyer in this project. But there was definitely a kind of a learning curve in how setting the legal clinic up in terms of its relationship to the job seekers clinic. But it wasn't terribly complicated. The most complicated part was finding the funding to pay for the attorney, which we were able to, or not we, Neighborhood Legal Services were able to find through external grants.
Great. Anessa Olson would like to know if there are any legal resources librarians can provide without needing a lawyer's input.
That's a great question. So one place to start is actually that same website that I mentioned earlier, which is lawhelp.org, because not only does that contain information about legal service providers, but it also contains legal information about a whole range of legal topics in every state in the country. And when it doesn't provide those resources directly on the site, it links to a site that does. So for example, in Maryland, it links to an outside site that's basically the People's Law Library that contains legal information on a whole range of topics. Cornell also has a good site that contains a lot of access to different legal information and statute laws. And so those are two places to start, but you can certainly contact us if you would like a whole lot more on this, and we can give you more resources.
And there are also obviously subscription databases through services like Nolo and Gale that you can subscribe to for legal documents, pre-made forms for different jurisdictions as well.
Great, thank you. Emily Hart has a good one. Do the conversations you have with lawyers in the library have the expectation of attorney-client privilege?
A wonderful question. So the way that our clinics are set up, we set them up as legal information and referral clinics because of precisely that. We're not developing an attorney-client relationship on the spot. We're talking to somebody in a confidential setting and we're keeping the conversation confidential, but they don't have that same added attorney-client relationship yet, so attorney-client privilege does not apply. We have a form that explains that the conversation will be confidential, and then they sign so that they can see that we're not actually becoming their attorney that day, So we're talking to them about the issue, seeing whether either our organization can provide representation, at which point we would track them into our intake system, or if another organization would be better to refer them to that organization. But rather than giving advice on the spot and becoming their lawyer on the spot, we're giving information and referrals at these clinics.
Great. Anders Bruce is wondering if the DC Library tracks employment or other outcomes for clients who use the legal services in the library.
That is also a great question, and up until now, we have not been able to track this primarily through our privacy policy issues. However, with the new grant funding, there is an evaluation tracking component that the legal team will be implementing. And so they are going to be working with a third-party evaluation system that will provide some longitudinal feedback from people who have received information in the legal clinic so that we can check up with them 3 months, 6 months down the road to find out if the legal information that they received has led to a change in their employment status.
And I would just add, we're going to start collecting that data soon in a more formalized way, and it's going to help us along the way to refine the program to be more effective once we start tracking the data along with this consultant.
Great. Cynthia Hunt has a couple of questions. The first one is, if the patron becomes a client of your firm, is there any fee involved or is it still free?
No, we are a completely free legal services provider, so it's there is no fee involved. So when you're considering collaborating with lawyers, it's important, yes, to keep that in mind, whether the organization is a legal services provider and has no fees involved, or whether it's a private law firm.
Great. And at what levels did you decide to hire additional personnel for the program?
At what levels? So
we have one full-time lawyer.
Yes, and then we have actually 2 full-time attorneys staffing the project now, and we have a project coordinator within NLSP who's coordinating the clinics. And then we have other staff within our organization, a pro bono counselor who helps recruit pro bono involvement for the clinics. And then we have other participation from a litigation director within our program. So it also extends to some other staff when we take in cases that are in other practice areas. Then the cases we take in through the clinics go to those other practice areas within NLSP. So it depends on what cases are coming in, which staff are involved.
Great. And it looks like one more question. Is there a time of the week or time during the day that seems to work the best for patrons for this particular program?
We have explored several different time frames, and it really depends on the neighborhood in which the program is offered. The programs that are happening in Ward 7 and 8 are daytime programs. These are in our residential neighborhoods where we see high long-term sustained unemployment. And so those start around 10:30 a.m. and run till about 2. And then the Martin Luther King Library programs that happen in our central facility, there's one that's in the evening and one that's in the afternoon, correct? Yeah, so we cover basically the full breadth of a day given different locations of the program.
Great.
In several months, we'll also be expanding to Saturdays as well. So yes, we really do try every possible time period that we think will have good turnout.
Sounds good. And it looks like we are about out of time. So at this moment, I would like to thank both Eric and Maya again for their wonderful presentation and all of you for joining us today. This webinar will be available for viewing on programminglibrarian.org within a couple of hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.